Hi, this is Matt. I'm going to be walking you through Smart B&B, and this is the management software where all the day-to-day management of the business is done. So Smart B&B, all the Airbnb reservations and all the VRBO reservations, basically all the business runs through Smart B&B. And I'm going to be showing you the inbox tab, the calendar, and the guest experiences, and operations. So those are the things that are used day to day to respond to guests, to make maintenance requests. There's a lot of automation that's done by Smart B&B, which is super great. It helps to run the business day to day, and I'm going to be walking you through how that works. So we're actually starting up here in the dashboard, and you can see it's just kind of a high level view. It's what's going on. I don't really use the dashboard too much, but it is useful as far as seeing when check-ins and checkouts, excuse me, and tasks. So you can see there's a check-in today at Churchill. Check-in's always at 4 p.m. Now you'll notice check-ins at Churchill. Churchill, this is a property, and that includes both Airbnb and VRBO. So both the Airbnb and VRBO listing are inside the Churchill property. You actually see that this reservation is an Airbnb reservation. You can even click on specific reservations and get a whole lot of details about who the guest is, their contact information, all of the you get the listing description in here, the conversation, the workflow for this reservation, and any tasks. So if you wanted to know, okay, who's checking out today? Let me make sure all of the housekeeping appointments are going to be done for all the checkouts today. Let's say there are 4 checkouts or something, 5 checkouts. Boy, let me message housekeeping, just make sure all 5 of them are going to be completed. You can see them here. So these are checkouts. We have 2 checkouts tomorrow. All of the checkouts, all of the housekeeping appointments are automated, meaning every time a reservation is made, every time a reservation is changed or a reservation is canceled, housekeeping gets a message already with all the details for that reservation. So that is done automatically, meaning the scheduling of the housekeeping. They even get the number of towels. They use the number of guests to leave out even the appropriate number of towels for that reservation. So that's great. And that's the number of towels for the next reservation. And but you still may want to know, okay, I just want to be sure. There are 5 checkouts today. I'd like to confirm with housekeeping. Let me send them a message. Hey, these are the properties I have. You can do that in here. You can see any outstanding tasks that are going to be completed. So you can see the handyman, Mike LaFawn, has an appointment tomorrow at Rolling Oaks that starts at checkout. Checkout's always at 11 a.m. And he's got another one scheduled for Thursday at Stapleton. So I'll get into tasks, but for all intents and purposes, this is the dashboard. You can get here by clicking this button up here as well. Now we're going to go to the inbox. So the inbox is really probably has the most activity day to day. So these are all the messages, and you can see there are Airbnb reservations and also VRBO reservations. So you don't have to go to Airbnb.com, you don't have to go to VRBO.com. All of them are received in Smart B&B. Airbnb messages post pretty quick in Smart B&B. It takes about maybe 60 seconds for it to arrive in Smart B&B. VRBO can take a little bit longer. It could take 2-3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes at the most. But they all show up in here. So this way you can track, you'll get in a new message and you can click on that message and respond. So these are all the latest messages for the Airbnbs. You can even look at, they're organized by status. So you can see all the messages here. You can filter by unread messages, or there's also an awaiting reply. I'll get to that later. But typically I just look at all messages. I don't really use these filters. And the way this happens is, what's nice too is you can actually search by a guest name. In Airbnb you can't do that. So it's, sometimes you get a lot of different people. You might want to go back and look 4 days back, but that's like, 15 guests back. You can actually search by guest name, which is super great. And then you can click on an individual conversation, and this is where you'll be responding to the guest. So when you click on a conversation, it has all these details up here. It's an Airbnb reservation, it's a local guest, great reviews of this guest, and these are all the messages that have been sent. It even shows pictures, which is great. So you can walk back all the way to the very beginning of the conversation. And so this is what you use. You can see, like, these are all scheduled messages. I'll get to that. But these are scheduled messages that have already been sent to the guest. These are, right here, are 2 messages that are scheduled but have not been sent. So you can actually edit or delete a message that's going to be sent to them in the future. I'll get to that in a little bit. But you can see, where they are on the calendar for that property. There's really a lot of detail. I love SmartBnB. It's super great. And you can respond to the guest by clicking on this message box and writing in here. This is super great because, yeah, you can respond to them by, physically writing out the message. But you can also respond to them by what's called canned responses. So these are pre-written messages that we create. So I've created all these pre-written messages, and this is for like things that come up. Some, like, anything to me, anytime something can come up more than once, like that's not a completely customized message, should probably be a canned response. So, like, for example, there are Super Nintendos at each of my listings, and the guest may ask, "Hey, I'm having trouble with a Nintendo, or how do I find the games?" All the games are loaded into the console. There are no discs or anything. And so let's say you get a Nintendo-oriented request, Nintendo-oriented question. You can just search for the Nintendo message, and the pre-written message populates in the message box. So instead of having to write out every time, Super Nintendo, and write this very detailed, lengthy message, you get this. You can just pick a canned response, and it has all the information that they might possibly need. And you'll notice it hasn't sent this canned response yet. So we're still in the message box. We could delete this entire message and not send it to them. You can also search for canned responses on the desktop website. It works really well for that. And you can also tweak this message. So they might have asked, "Hey, do you have does the Nintendo have Halo?" And you could add, "But it doesn't include Halo." And then they still get all the other information that they might possibly need. Even in the case that someone has modified the TV, like, unbeknownst to us, they removed some of the inputs on the TV, which, by the way, can be added back, but so in this case, they'll even get instructions to how to add the input back and get their Nintendo up and running, um, even if a different guest had deleted that input from the home screen on the TV, which is super great. So the point of this canned response is there's a lot of canned responses, and the point being, well, there are a lot of questions that are common, like that are redundant. So this way, um, all these canned responses are very detailed and very like thorough. That way, you don't have to rewrite them, but also it's great for accuracy. Like you don't have to remember all these, details and write them out every time you get a request. So there's quite a lot in here. And I'm going to show you something else. So let's say they get a message. Let's say you get a message for, do you have a grill? So what's interesting about Smart B&B is, yes, we've got a canned response for a grill, but every property is different, right? You might have a grill at one property, but not have one at another. Or maybe one has a gas grill, another one has like an electric grill. I don't know. So what's interesting is that Smart B&B has this thing called custom codes, where a canned response can include a custom code. Basically, this canned response can be customized to each property. So when I click grill, it loads to me the grill response for this property. So I've already set this up. I've already configured it. It works great. And this way, anytime you get a grill question, you can just boop, click that grill canned response, and it'll insert the grill message for that property. So I'm gonna get into how that works a little bit later, but the point is, these canned responses can be used a lot. They can be used a lot. They're great. In my view, the desktop website is easier to use. The app is great. The app works really well. You can use that while out and about, even inside your home when you're not at the computer. But the desktop website has like a few features that the app doesn't, and it's a little bit easier to navigate, in my opinion. And but the functionality is almost the same between the website and the app. So these canned responses are super great, and I really encourage, I would like you to look through all these canned responses. So I'll show you where they are a little bit later in this demo, but you can see there are quite a lot. And another thing is you can always add more. So like if you're responding to a guest and you're like, wait, let me try to use a canned response. Turns out there's not a canned response for that, but you're thinking, hey, I could see myself sending this message again in the future. Create a canned response. Just make sure you label it to kind of, communicate what, what that message is. That way, when you click it, you get the expected message. But a lot of the messaging can be done with these canned responses. And of course, you can always write, you can write like generic messages, custom messages. I always like to have the exclamation marks just to, the energy, like the communication style I look for is energetic, detailed, and accurate, which is like just staying positive, helping them, and um, and being accurate in what you say. Just make sure that when you say something, it's fully true and it's to the best of your abilities the most thorough way to describe the answer. So like if you're giving them instructions on how to do something, tell them like step by step, in simple terms, break it down for them. So that's the inbox. This is the inbox, and this is by far the most frequent feature. Okay, we got a new message here. This is by far the most frequent feature that you use on the site. So now I'm going to go to the calendar. So all of the reservations are in here. So you can see both Airbnb and VRBO reservations. Here's a VRBO reservation. So each property is in here. You can see there are 2 listings for every property. There's an Airbnb listing and a VRBO listing. You won't need to like configure anything of that, but if you want to see, when, what the occupancy looks like, when someone's checking in, when someone's checking out, all of that is here in SmartBnB. Just a quick note, it seems like oftentimes guests ask, hey, is this available? Are the dates open? I have a canned response for availability, and that just tells them go to the listing and use the calendar. The calendar is current. So you really shouldn't have to use the calendar much at all, unless it's just for your purposes, like there's a maintenance request that should be done after checkout that's not an urgent maintenance request. You could use the calendar to see when the next checkout is. Really, you should be using the operations tab for that, for scheduling a maintenance task anyways, but just for giggles, you can see what the occupancy looks like in here. Now I'm going to go to the guest experience feature, and this is where all the automation exists. So here's the guest experience feature, and you can see there are quite a lot of sub features in here. So I'm gonna, this is the overview. When you first click on guest experience, this is where they take you. And what's important to know about this page is that here are all the pending messages. So this is where you can edit and delete messages that are scheduled. So you can see all the messages that are going to be sent out automatically. So you don't have to do a thing. These are going to be sent out to each guest, and they have particulars about that property or about the whatever needs to be done in there. And what's important about this pending messages is that you can go in and edit or delete a message. The reason why this matters is that it's really only for if the guest has been having a hard time, like if there's just been problems, always we try to do as much as we can. We want to help the guests. We do everything we can, but sometimes the air conditioning breaks. The air conditioning breaks down, and the repair guy can't get there tomorrow. They're very upset. They haven't had a good experience. The reason why this matters is that you can go in and edit. The only time you'll edit or delete messages is, when there is the checkout instructions. So this is the standard checkout message. And you can see it says, I hope you have a great time, tidy up a little bit, please. And then it has this, later you will get an email to provide a review. Blah, blah, blah. We actually don't, because they haven't had a great time, we don't want to encourage them to write a review. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that part of the message. And it just says, please triple check you have all your belongings before leaving. And that's it. So this saves. And so when this actually gets sent out in 2 hours, they don't get this, hey, write us a review. We don't want them to do that. And you can also see, we also send a message automatically 2 hours after checkout that says, hey, you've been really awesome. Write us a review. If they've had a bad time, I just delete this because you don't want, like the less communication, the better. Like you need to give them the minimum, which is like, um, you know, help them understand what things to do, like how checkout works, right? But you don't need to be like contacting them an extra time, you know, all that stuff. So I'm just going to delete this message. So it's not gonna, even going to be sent. This is super important to do when there's problems. In general, the business runs like I, you know, like the majority of the time, the business runs smoothly, very smoothly. Problems do come up. There are problems, like and there can and inevitably there will be upset guests, and this is very important to do because what this does is it plays defense on the reviews. The reviews are the number one sales tool for the listing. Um, it's either number one or number two. Number one may be photos. You could argue either way, photos or reviews, but either way, your reviews are critical um, to the success of the business. Um, Luckily, like there's a great base of reviews already. Like my account already has more than 500 reviews, and like the average is high. Um, and so like my average is not going to dip, or on a listing is not going to dip too much if I get a bad review, and they do happen. But the point is, you just don't go out encouraging them to do that. The other thing is pending reviews. So I have a pending review that's written. It's an automatic review, and if no changes are made to the review, it gets sent for that guest. So I've actually had a few like misbehaving guests recently. Like both these guests, I remember they misbehaved. I'm gonna just show you like a standard review. Um, they get 5 stars, blah blah blah. They are really nice. That's all great. Great job. Um, Now I'm going to show you what happens with a bad review. So Smart B&B lets you edit the review, and it actually lets you. And normally for a good review, I have it scheduled to post like the day before the last. So the guest checks out. The host and the guest have 14 days to write a review about each other. They're both blind, so the host doesn't know what the guest wrote. Guest doesn't know what the host wrote. In any event, my philosophy has always been if they write a review on their own, great. It's usually a great review. You don't need to like pester them. And once I write a review of them, they get notified of that, which means they might, if they didn't write one yet, they might write one now. So I actually post a positive review like the day before the review period ends. But Smart B&B has this bad review feature, which is like the guest was bad, they misbehaved. And if you check this box, bad review, this gets posted like seconds before the end of the review period. So it's really rare that, like it's almost impossible that a guest that misbehaved got notified that it's like there were problems, right? That they did. I had to ask them, hey, you can't park 8 cars in front of my house. Hey, you've had 20 guests and coming through the Ring doorbell, or hey, the noise sensor has gone off twice now. Please, keep it down. What Bad Review does is it sends their review like right before the end of the review period, so that they get notified that I did in fact write them a review right before the end of the period. And unless they catch it right away, they can't write a review back. Now the review's still blind, so they don't know what I wrote, but it's still a good, cool feature. So it's important to go in here. Anytime a guest misbehaves, you got to do it. And this is also important because you're protecting other guests from hosting these guys. You'll know that this guest for yourself, if they request you again, you'll remember, not a good guest. And also for other hosts, hey, they did a lot of stuff that wasn't cool. So this person had all these. My housekeeping was really, not happy with all the trash. They left all this trash. There were a lot of extra people. So yeah, I gave them a bad review, and you have to click save. So you'll check bad review. You can, write a message in here, change the stars, and you have to save. You have to save the review. So those are all in the guest experience. This is just in um, the guest experience page, both the pending messages and pending reviews. So, having said that, how do all these automated messages get sent? That's done in these messaging rules. You don't have to worry about this stuff. I do all this stuff. Everything's all configured. You don't need to worry about it. The only thing to know is like occasionally you'll get well, I'll get to that in a moment. But all of this is sent out on your behalf, like any of this stuff. All kinds of things in here. When they inquire, when they have a confirmation, and when their pre-approval expires, the day before they check in, blah, blah. These are all automated messages. And same thing with the reviews. These are automatic reviews they're sent. So now I'm going to get into this thing called questions, which is, again, you don't need to worry about this, but I just want you to know about it. So these are all questions that SmartBnB detects on our behalf. And what's important to know about this is that, so like, if a guest asks about the air conditioning, like that's a standard request. Like it happens pretty often, and SmartBnB tries to detect that. They have their own way of detecting that, and there's an automatic response that gets sent to them. This can be kind of configured, and this is an automatic response that'll be sent to them automatically right when it's detected. So like they sent, hey, can we change the air conditioning to 55? And if it detects air conditioning, this gets sent to them automatically. Occasionally, you'll get a guest who wrote something and SmartBnB detected as air conditioning or, I don't know, parking or something, and it wasn't actually a parking question. So you'll have to respond in that message, hey, sorry, that was an automated message about parking. Sorry about that. I see that you asked me about, storage parking for your RV nearby. We don't know anything about that, but you can check Google. Whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would recommend, using Google Maps, blah, blah, blah. All these questions and answers are done in here. So that's all there. And next up is custom codes. You don't need to know anything about this, but this is just what I was talking about with like canned responses, and this is what tells them. So like I have a bunch of custom codes for backyard. So for Pinebrook has a different backyard than Churchill, right? So here's the message for Pinebrook for the backyard, and there's a backyard short code for every property. The point being, if the guest asks about the backyard, you click the backyard canned response, and it sends the backyard message for that property in that message. So because Deep asked about Springbrook, they get the Springbrook backyard message. Isn't that great? It's super awesome. Like Smart B&B, wow, I'm super impressed. You don't really need to worry about any of this stuff. I do all the configuration. I really don't want you changing anything in messaging rules, review rules, questions, or custom codes. Please do not change anything. But canned responses, go for it. If there's a canned response that you think of that will help you, that you're going to use more than once, go for it. Just make sure it's labeled effectively, and that's about it. I mean, I don't think it's good to have like 1,000 canned responses, but there can be more. Like anytime I've been writing something and like been like, oh, I can definitely reuse this. What I do is I don't even respond manually to the guest in the inbox. I go to canned responses first. I write the canned response out, and then I go back to the inbox to that message, and I pick that canned response. What that does is then over time you accumulate this really great mechanism that's super fast, super easy to use. That way you're not manually answering the guest every single time. So that's the guest experience. And there's also this log feature. I don't use this. I don't really. It's just kind of a log, I guess, of all the messages been sent out. And then lastly is the operations feature. So the things to know about this, there are a couple like automation things in here. I'll get to that, but what you really need to know is here is this team feature. This has the different people or the businesses involved with the business. So the plumber, the appliance repair guy, this doesn't, concierge, handyman, so on and so forth. All of that is here in team. And the reason why this matters is that when you go, so let's say the guest says, hey, the doorknob in the master bedroom is broken. And so you will need to create a maintenance request for fixing that doorknob. And that can be done in the task calendar. Excuse me. So you're going to go in here and you'll go to the property in question. So let's say in sample they told us, hey, the doorknob is broken. Don't worry about it, but just so you know, you can fix it after checkout, but just wanted to let you know the doorknob is broken. Okay, great, no worries. So you can go in here into, you go to operations, you go to the task calendar, and you can create a request in here, a new task. So checkout's between 11 and 4 because this is like a non-essential maintenance request. It's done at checkout, and the house is empty between 11 and 4, and so we'll schedule it between 11 and 4, and it's a maintenance task, and then you have to assign it to the specific person. So most of them are done by the handyman. So I just clicked handyman. You can see it's like highlighted now. And you need to add notes to this task. So, and you want to be as detailed as you can. So like master bedroom doorknob is broken. And you could add like several lines in here. It's up to you. And when you're ready, you'll click save. And what's so cool is I've already set up, Mike will get an email and instant message that includes the property address of where this task is, the timeline for it. So it could be between checkout and check-in, or it could be like, the guest wants him to come tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So you can write it down in here. And yeah, you assign it to them, and he'll get that message, and yeah, it'll include the property address, the time, and it'll include the notes. And so that way he has a record, like he gets this notification now, he can look back on it. Oh, where was it? And it even gets added to his calendar. So he has a count on his phone. He has a calendar thing that'll have like an alert on it probably, and so that way there's like a log of it. So it's super great. Um, and like I said, um, in most cases, like most of these maintenance requests are done by the handyman, and like in general, they're done. Like in general, unless the guest's really upset or there's something essential on site that needs to be fixed, typically these requests are done after they check out. Um, and so they're all done in here. And typically, you're only going to be assigning the handyman. Like I said, all the housekeeping appointments are done automatically, so that's already in place. But this is where you create those requests, and you can always look back at them, check in on them, all those things. So, this is Smart B&B. This, like I said, this is day to day. What you're going to be doing, what you're going to be using to run the business, manage the business, and just so you know, so like you have your access, I have access. So like I love the business. I like to keep tabs on stuff. Um, I often am in here like adding a new can response or making a new automation or whatever, setting up a new listing, putting everything in place here. But this is what you'll be using to run things day to day. Again, the dashboard's here. This is a high level view. You got the inbox here, which is where all the messages are. You got the calendar here. So yeah, inbox is here. You got the calendar here. And you've got the guest experience, which does all the like messaging rules, all the automation, also pending messages, which, like I said, is very important, and then the operations, which is like all the service requests. So this is really what you're going to be using to run the business. And like I said, it's all centralized. So it's not you don't have to be hopping between Airbnb and VRBO. All of the helpers and like can response, all the stuff is also in Smart B&B. So it's all here. And this is my demo of like what you're going to be using um, in Smart B&B. And so I really encourage, like I really would like you to, I've probably already given you access to Smart B&B. Really would love to see you, go in there, click around, get acquainted with everything. I find it's pretty user friendly. Like it's pretty easy use. I also find that there's a lot of functionality that like you need to like it's there, it's already there, and like if you know that it's there, then you can use it. But I really encourage you to like click around a lot and like poke around and like really maximize this tool because it's a super great tool and it does a lot. Please let me know if you have any questions. And I hope this demo was useful. And thanks again for your time. And talk to you soon.